Hey guys, welcome back to the Lights Off podcast. We're on episode 5 now. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. But today, we're really excited because we got the Warriors Captain, Georgia Hale. Welcome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. And just for those who don't know you, do you mind just introducing yourself, giving us a little bit of background of who you are and what you're about?
Cool, thank you. So my name's Georgia Hale. Grew up on the North Shore in Auckland, from a little bay called Long Bay, so kind of at the very end of the North Shore.
Nice.
Kind of like any Kiwi kid and any Kiwi girl, grew up playing a lot of different codes, trying out different sports, was really competitive at a young age. So pretty much kind of put my feet into everything that I could, made some amazing friendships and some really cool codes, touch, tag, schoolgirls rugby, netball. So really fortunate in that space, kind of coming through the grades. And through some of those really cool friendships, I found myself playing rugby league. Some of the girls kind of pulled me into the league circle, the likes of touch and tag and rugby. Crossing codes isn't so hard to do. So the only really change was the contact side of things. So yeah, I found myself playing rugby league pretty much straight out of high school, and then really, I guess, was exposed to how many opportunities are in our amazing game. So still playing rugby league today at 24 years of age.
Nice.
Very fortunate to have represented my country and the sport that I love. Yes, captain also our NRLW side at the Warriors. And absolutely love what I do on the field. Fortunate as well to work in this space. So I work in rugby league at the Vodafone Warriors in the community department. So long story kind of short, in that role, I pretty much am out in the community trying to engage people with our game, trying to get people to give it a go. Not necessarily on the field, maybe in different roles within the game. We go into schools, we support charities. There's lots of work that we do in the community and communities across the country. So pretty much best of both worlds on and off the field. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And how long you been doing that like community work?
So I pretty much started playing league when I was 18, and 2 years into the game, had kind of made some tracks and moved my way up the grades, which was cool, and kind of got shoulder tapped by my manager today, Patrice, who also works in the community department, to come in and kind of, I guess, take part in everything that the Warriors are doing and everything that they're about. Those that know the women's game quite closely know how much it's grown in the last few years, and how quickly it's grown. So I think it really stemmed from the growth of the game and having a female in that space, pushing messages out to our young girls and the next generation of our game.
Yeah, and like in that environment that you work in, is obviously it must be predominantly guys. So how do you cope in that situation, trying to encourage more female participants?
Yeah, it's crazy because it's so like that on, it kind of was like that on the field, male dominant sport, coming in as a female, like trying to compete, and then obviously in the workspace as well. But again, that environment's changed a lot. I would say at the Warriors now, 50-50, females and males working in that space, which is really exciting. And half of the crew are kind of the business minded, business background type of person, and then your other half are your footy heads and footy fanatics. So a really nice cross to see both females and males spread across all the roles within the club.
Yeah, definitely sounds good. And like getting the best of both worlds, like work and then getting to play as well. It's pretty cool having it hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. And it also helps with the training schedule too.
Oh yeah, true, definitely. That's probably like for a lot of female athletes, because it's not fully professional like the guys, having to juggle work and footy as well. Hey, but I guess it's a lot easier for you.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for me because I don't have kids, but oh, you're so right. It's we play the same game, but we play it in a very different way. The way that the females have to work around everything else that they've got going on in their lives, the sacrifices they make yes, some of them are mothers, full-time work, kind of training around the clock or when you can, or how you can, whether that's before work, during work, at lunchtime break, after work, whatever that is. The sacrifices are immense, but I truly believe that's what makes our game so special is the girls kind of give up anything and everything to play the game they love. And it's really special when you see girls earn a jersey, or put a jersey on for the first time, or put it on again. Just how special it is because of all the hard work they've done to get there. So
Yeah.
that's probably the thing that I love the most.
Oh, nice. And just talking on like I guess the jersey and all that. Do you want to talk us through the kind of the journey from club and then reaching into I guess Kiwi Ferns probably first and then NRL or vice versa, however it worked. Do you want to just talk us through your journey?
Yeah, so for me, I pretty much gave rugby league a go through friends, as mentioned. So, I really just went over to, I just thought I was going to play a few games and,
Yeah.
kind of fill a slot, maybe for a year or two. And I really didn't realize just how many opportunities were in the game. It really blew my mind. I play at a club in Grey Lynn called Richmond. And
Nice.
at that club, there are so many amazing legends of the ladies game that I was rubbing shoulders with, and when I first walked into that club really had no idea who they were. I guess just really like naive, first time kind of stepping into women's football, as a young 18-year-old. And yeah, that moment really changed things for me. And a light bulb kind of switched because, I fell in love with the sport kind of the moment I touched the ball or from the moment I first got bumped off. And then, seeing all the opportunities within the game. You've got people like the likes of Louisa Aviaki, Tasha Davey, Lorena Papali'i playing alongside your club that
Yeah.
are showing you that you can represent your country playing the sport. So I guess for me, my journey started at Richmond, from club level, especially in Auckland here. We have the opportunity to represent Akarana or counties, or depending on the region you're in, if you're down the line, perhaps Wellington or Canterbury, which takes you to a women's nationals tournament. Yeah, really fortunate to be in that space, from the kind of first occasion playing at that tournament. So happened pretty quick, but off the back of meeting some of these girls, it kind of they showed me what it took to be in a position like that, at the highest level in the game like that. So from those learnings and those first experiences, I was just like a sponge, really trying to soak it all up. And I guess that's kind of got me to where I am today, having continued to represent for the Kiwi Ferns, and now at NRLW level, which is super exciting, even seeing our game at that point today. But yeah, I guess for me, it was just coming into the game and just realizing how many opportunities there were, and especially how many opportunities there are today.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool to kind of hear the I guess the structure and how it goes as well, especially for someone who's trying to like for example, if they were in the same position as you, just wanted to give it a go, not realizing the pathways. So it's quite cool to hear like how it goes in that. And for you, when you had if you can remember back to your first debut of the Kiwi Ferns, what was that like? What was the kind of the feelings and emotions that came with that?
Yeah, it was really emotional. I was actually quite fortunate. My first time away with the Kiwi Ferns, I was 18th man, and obviously would have loved to have been playing. But I think in that moment, after being with the girls all week in the lead up to the game, to the warm up, and then like to doing the haka before the game, like in that moment, I was just so thankful to be in the position that I was in, just kind of sitting back, fly on the wall, watching these girls like do their thing. Because coming into an environment like this, when it's at the highest level, it can actually be really overwhelming. And for me, I'm just a little short, girl from the North Shore. It was a huge step for me. So that was kind of like my first encounter traveling, was as 18th man, and a huge stepping stone, which was cool, but a good stepping stone to then lead me to my debut the following year in 2015. I probably played terrible. I don't even remember what I did or what effect I had in the game. But obviously a special moment. It was actually an Anzac Test, and it was
Shit.
the 100 years that just fell on the game that I was playing. So it was
Crazy.
yeah, it was a crazy time, one that I'll never forget. But yeah, like I said, the impact on the game and what I actually did for the team, and my performance was probably atrocious, but huge learning, and just obviously, as kind of any girl would say, putting on the black jersey for the first time, just a very, very overwhelming feeling.
Yeah. And you touched on that black jersey. With comparing to, I guess, New Zealand and Australia, rivalries, I guess. But with New Zealand, culture is really big. For us through not just in sport but in general. But for the sports side, what's it like in I guess in the Kiwi fan culture, whether it be in camps or kind of leading up to a test match? What's the culture like within the squad?
Yeah, the culture's really strong. And I mean, it's hard because, I'm a Kiwi, so I've only represented New Zealand, so it's kind of hard to compare. But, it's kind of, culture's one of those things that you just feel. So when you're in a team and you're around your girls and, you're doing what you do and you're doing what you love, you feel that sisterhood, and you feel like the emotion of the sister on your right and the sister on your left. And it's actually really hard to explain. It's not something that you kind of go into a campaign or or trainings and games and things like trying to create. It really just happens, and I think that it really happens from like the buy-in from girls. For me, and I know for the rest of my teammates, like it's an absolute privilege to represent New Zealand. So, from the moment like we're in camp or we've got something to look forward to, or to be honest, even actually when we don't, and we're just like at the moment we're sitting back like unsure what's kind of coming
Yeah.
next, to be aligned with the Kiwi Ferns, to still wear that brand on your chest, like it's a pretty special feeling. So I really think that's kind of where our culture stems from. As most Kiwis know, we're kind of a mixed bunch,
Yeah.
of nationalities, ethnicities, backgrounds. So I think as well, that brings a lot to our team and to our campaigns. When you've got your Tongan sisters and your Samoan sisters and your Pākehā sisters, and we all come together, and, before a game we perform a haka, and we go to battle together. It's really special, and something that I think, Kiwis, and especially Kiwi Ferns, we really pride ourselves on. So, yeah, I would be really interesting to kind of see what culture looks like in other areas of the world,
Yeah.
especially Australia.
And what's the haka? What was it like? Had you like done a haka before you even joined the Kiwi Flares, or what was that like? Because for some people it's just natural, but I mean, if you've never done it before, it can be quite daunting, I'd imagine.
Yeah, especially like, oh man, just thinking of some of the girls that I've played alongside, Hilda, Laura, Crystal, these are strong Māori girls, that have performed hakas their whole life. And, I guess for me, one blessing was that they had, so there was a lot that they could pass on to me. Had never performed a haka before. I still today will stand in the back row, just, just, to make sure that I'm, led by, the girls that have really got it down packed. But it's an honour to perform the haka before we play. It has a lot of different meaning, to everyone, and especially with the mixture of cultures that we bring into our team. But for me, I think, it's, even though I'm not of Māori descent, I'm a Kiwi, and I understand, the roots of our country. So to be able to connect with that, not even being Māori, is really special. And it's also a really good rev up before the game as well.
Yeah, I bet the adrenaline's probably like pumping.
Yeah.
When you guys, especially vibing off the other girls as well. Tawila, Wheels is I love watching her during the haka. She's just so into it.
Yeah, I love
But
it because she's usually like she's sprayed water all over her face and like she's
yeah,
moving her hair. So when I'm in the back row, I'm like, oh yeah, Wheeler's
yeah.
here, all her water off her hair. Yeah, she's going hard, go hard.
No, that's so cool, and I think that's across like a lot of sports, the culture, the New Zealand culture, and having that pride for the indigenous people as well, of New Zealand. I know being in Australia, they're still kind of working towards that, but it's I think if you ask any Kiwi, they could probably say a few words in Māori. That's kind of coming through being born here. They have a lot of pride for the indigenous people. So it's really cool to see that they include that haka for the ladies as well to do it as well.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so too. And like, I mean, yourself, Nelly, like you've been over in Aussie and you've experienced the game over there. And I think like the really cool thing is when you've got Kiwi-based girls over in Aussie, when they come back and represent the Kiwi Ferns, you know, through the haka is a really easy way to connect like with those roots and
yeah,
like
true.
with New Zealand. So, you know, for the likes of Monks, Nita, Kiana, Tuila now, you know, when they come home, like they're coming home and they're getting that full experience. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's really special.
yeah. No, that's cool. And like obviously leading into the Warriors as well. Compared to the Kiwi Fern experience, and then moving into the NRLW for the Warriors, was it quite similar being a New Zealand-based NRL team, or is it quite different vibes between the two?
Um, yeah, I mean they're similar in the sense, you know, like we're talking high performance and you know, like competing at the highest level, which excites me. But different in the sense, I guess, maybe the makeup of the culture. And you know, I think I see that across the entire NRLW. You know, you've got girls really spread from all over. You know, not even just between New Zealand and Australia. We had
Yeah,
some teammates from Fiji, which was pretty cool. But I think the NRLW just is a really cool and exciting way to show, you know, where our game is heading and the growth of our game, but also to give a lot of females an opportunity to compete at the highest level. The Warriors experience, I mean, both years, yeah, were phenomenal. And the exciting thing for me as a player in both of those years was to see the progress from the first year to the second year,
yeah,
and just really to see where the game is heading. You know, just seeing like what the Warriors did and changed, you know, to help us in that second year from the learnings within that first season. You know, to even be playing the competition and comparing the 2 years, you know, the changes in that space. So yeah, the NRLW is a great, you know, part of our game now. You know, it is a stepping stone up to international level, but, you know, similarities, you still feel like you are competing at the highest level and against some of the best, which is really exciting. You've got girls coming in who are like 18, 19,
yeah,
fresh as, keen as, and you know, they're playing alongside or against Kiwi Ferns and Jillaroos, you know, like
yeah.
for a young girl,
They'd be like
that's
crazy.
just like disease.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could just imagine like a young
exactly.
one
And
coming
then,
through.
yeah, too true. And then, you know, for your experienced girls to be able to pass on that knowledge, you know, down to that next generation coming up, you know, to really see our game in the space is really exciting. And then, you know, obviously, then you've got your Kiwi Ferns that you kind of step up to, which is kind of like your cream of the pot. But, you know, it just kind of closes the gap from going from club to Kiwi Ferns, where you now can go from your grassroots club to your NRL club to your Kiwi Ferns. So, you know, as you move through the grades, the levels, you know, increasing, and the demand from the games, you know, obviously increasing as well, intensity and competitiveness and everything. But, you know, if you want to be in that space, you know, it's a great space to be in.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I did see that from between the first year and the second year with the Warriors. Even though there wasn't an extra team added to the comp, you can definitely see the progress between the teams. For you, what's probably I guess a memorable moment from the NRL, whether it be the first or the second year?
Well, I think one really thing that like stands out for me is being a younger player and learning off, you know, one of the greats. And we were really fortunate to be captained by Laura Mario, who has pretty much done it all in our game. And to be led by Laws, to play alongside Laws, you know, train alongside the whole package. You know, any opportunity like that you get as a young player, like it's just the best. So I think then going into my second year, although it was a huge step, captaining the side, was kind of following Laws's lead, and seeing what she did in that space. What are some takeaways from Laws's experiences and everything she taught me, and then how am I going to kind of fill that position in my own way? So that was probably a highlight for me. One, being captained by Laws, and then secondly, to then try and be my own captain and in my own way. And I'm not to compare against Laws, but just I guess it was almost to like make her proud.
Yeah.
Because just like when you're a player and you wear a jersey, you're a caretaker of that jersey. So in a leadership position, you kind of don't know how long you're going to have it for. So you just really want to be the best leader that you can be. So that was really my aim last year. And probably looking back on reflection, one of the biggest highlights as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just touching on leadership, because it's in some of the teams that I noticed over in Australia, it's quite new for them to hear of like a leadership group in a team. Do you guys have that in the Warriors or even in the Kiwi Ferns?
Yeah, we have a leadership group in both spaces. So, both Warriors and Kiwi Ferns. Some of those girls, I've played Warriors with and Kiwi Ferns with. So, the likes of a Crystal Rhoda, I'm with her in those leadership groups in both teams, which is really cool. We even have a leadership group at my grassroots club, Richmond. So
Nice.
I think it's really becoming a thing now. It's really common for teams to have a leadership group. It's just a really easy way if your players are driving something to really help, like pick up the ones that need picking up, or help encourage or motivate, or even just getting other girls to buy into what we're aiming to do. And even if you're some people would look back and be like, oh, at grassroots, but man, you can achieve so much at grassroots, and grassroots is where it starts. So if you can kind of implement those things at that level, when you make it to the top, or when you move back into that really professional elite space, nothing really changes. You just take with you, the different experiences you've had, which is cool.
Yeah, sick. And there is one I guess moment for the Warriors, that inaugural standalone match. How was that? Because like coming through, you'd probably never imagine that people would be able to come to the Mount Smart Stadium to watch the women play. So how was that leading up to it, and even I guess the atmosphere when you guys ran out for the first time?
Yeah, it was unreal. And like for me, I remember sitting in those stands, going along with dad and your brother to watch the game. But being a supporter of the club for so many years, to then kind of finding out, oh wow, they've now got a women's team. How cool is this? And then, oh my goodness, now we have the opportunity to play on home soil. It was just like, it just got better and better, sweeter and sweeter. So yeah, that day was so cool. That their home is in New Zealand. I think even for them to step foot on Mount Smart and to play a game there was a special moment for them as well. I think like the highlight for me, like, yes, running on and playing the game and everything, but just to see how many young girls in our home and in our communities around us are now playing the game, or there and in their kit, whether it was like Northcote Tigers kit or Richmond kit or
Nice.
Papakura kit. You've got all of these young girls that are your future Warriors and Kiwi Ferns sitting in the crowd, cheering you on, like that look in their eyes, that hope that one day that's going to be them. So it was really cool, as a player and, being on the field that day, but to, inspire the next generation come through and to pave the way for them. It was a moment in history for us all.
Yeah, for sure. That would have been so cool. And especially seeing those young ones, I could only imagine them being so hyped, and going home, be like, oh, I got to meet this person, or I got to see this girl. I can imagine that would be something that would stick with them right through, to wherever they leave. But like any athlete, there's obviously highs, but there's obviously some lows or challenges as well. So for yourself along your journey, what kind of challenges have you come across? heading towards to where you are today?
Yeah, I've faced a few challenges, but I try and look at challenges as changes. So from all the kind of challenges I've faced, I've definitely changed from those, and I think on reflection today, like in a positive way, and I'm better for those challenges and stronger for those challenges. One that really kind of sits quite closely to me and I'm reminded of, and probably the hardest challenge. Back in 2017, I went to my first World Cup, and it was unreal. It was an amazing experience. But I wasn't selected to play the final in that game. And as any player, the grand final, like that's the game you want to be playing. Like without a doubt, you kind of like all the round robin games, semi-final. Yeah, it's important, but you're like, man, I just want to be taking taking the field on that grand final day. So yeah, I guess in that lead up to that grand final, I know hand on my heart I wasn't playing my best footy. Maybe slightly complacent in my role, just having been in that space for a couple of years. I was just like maybe went into a little bit of cruise mode. And the girls around me at the time, like they were peaking. I remember Kimmy coming back into that space, being an experienced player, but in that elite space again. She was just unreal. And I was playing halves back then, so she definitely won that jersey, and kept me on my toes that whole time. But I don't know, maybe it was headspace, maybe it was like physicality. There's lots to think about, but I just know today, like, things happen for a reason. I wasn't selected for that game, but on reflection and kind of like moving forward and past that moment, I think it was really a case of kind of, do I throw in the towel? Like, is that enough for me? Like, I've kind of done my bit. I've represented my country and been to a World Cup, and because it's really easy as an athlete to do that. Or is it kind of like no, I'm not going to settle for that. Like, this has challenged me, but it has changed me. And it, for me, like, without a doubt, it was that mindset. Like, this is going to change me for the better. I remembered like going away and just like doing my own training and kind of like resetting my mindset to come back stronger, because like I've always been pretty competitive, and yes, Kimmy, and Racine, they were at their peak at that World Cup, but I was like, no, I'm going to come back as me, as Georgia. I'm going to come back stronger, and and find myself in that space again. So yeah, that was probably one of the most challenging moments that I've kind of come across. And again, I don't forget that moment. I just remember it. So when I'm competing for a jersey or, at training or whatever, I think it just kind of helps to put that mindset where it should be, to kind of keep me riding the wave that I want to. So, yeah.
And I think that's quite cool how you bring it up, because I guess for someone watching this, they could do all the training in the world and then get to a stage where they don't get selected for one of those important games, and then how do they cope with that? And you've mentioned a few times about reflection. So is that kind of a tool that you use to help with your mindset and help with your mental health and to get into the right frame of mind?
Yeah, well, I think like just coming into the space, you definitely have to be like physically in shape and fit and like ready to compete at that level. But I've learned so quickly that the mental side and like everything that happens up here, and the top 6 inches, if it needs to be, if not equally or more so, more of a focus for players, because if that ain't working, like nothing else is working. So I just try and I guess reflect on everything that I've been through, and it just shows me like how far I've come, but also how far I want to go. And it's just a really easy way to, I guess, like refocus, because like players, athletes, they can go season after season. Maybe it feels like Groundhog Day for some, training in the same 4 walls or on the same field, running the same Bronco, like whatever it is. You gotta find some fire in your belly to like go again. And if it's not, what kind of coming up to look forward to, then like as in test matches or World Cups and things like that, which generally excites me. It's also really nice to just look back at all that you've achieved, but remembering all that you do want to achieve as well. I mean, for me, I just know I want to try and leave a legacy in the game, both on and off the field, and wear whatever number it is on my back, but and whatever uniform it is, wear it with pride and wear it like the best I can. So I guess that's a pretty easy way to think and change the mindset that I don't want to be complacent in this space. I want to be competitive.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like for like leading up to a game, how do you mentally prepare? What's like game day like look like for you? Because everyone obviously prepares different for a game, but for yourself, how do you prep for your game?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm like an energizer bunny, so I need to like calm down, especially on game day. So I actually have this thing where I don't put headphones on. Like I'd rather like have a yarn to a girl or a coach or a staff member and like listen to like the team music and things. So I try and just like stay in the moment instead of sinking into my own bubble. Because I think if I was to do that, I'd be like trying to play the game before it's played, and
Yeah,
man, my
yeah,
mind would just be running. So I just really try and be in the moment. Like I try, I enjoy like waking up on game day, like having a nice breakfast, like just like the leisurely, like a leisurely morning kind of working into a game. And I guess
yeah,
that's at all levels. Like even at Richmond, man, I get nervous, so I try and do the same thing as I would if I was playing at Kiwi Ferns. But yeah, my biggest thing would just try and be like in the moment on game day, leading up and especially in the game, because as soon as it's over, you it's so easy to be like, oh, what if? Oh, I should have done this. So,
yeah.
I try and, ignore those thoughts because I've been in the moment, in all moments of the game, which hopefully, like, yeah, I guess minimizes those what if thoughts. So
Yeah.
that's probably just my biggest thing on game.
That's quite cool. Because some athletes might be like the complete opposite and be like, no, I want to chuck my headphones on. So
Yeah.
it's quite cool. Hearing that whole being in the moment, because I know it can be quite easy for an athlete to try and play the game before it's played. In their head, and if you especially if you got a lot of energy, then you're like
Yeah.
buzzing. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and then it comes to the game, and you could probably have like a terrible game.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of everyone finds their own rhythm and such. So it's quite cool to hear yours. For like, obviously mental health's quite big. And not just in sport, but in general. At the moment, but for those coming through in grassroots, is there kind of I guess some education around um, looking after your mental health and that through community, like coming through grassroots? Because I know it's a lot in high performance. Obviously, they're touching on it a lot now, even the guys. But through the grassroots level, what does it kind of look like there?
Yeah, well, I think, as you mentioned, it's an area that I guess all areas of the world, are really looking at now and just how important it is. I know, like in my role at the Warriors and the community work we do, we go out with some really key well-being messages, and that's for all ages. So we're talking to kids that are 5 years old putting on like their first league jersey, or you could be talking to a 17-year-old putting on a league jersey again, but your mindset and the way we all think and process, like nothing really changes. You just grow with that as you grow older. But I personally really like to see just how much effort is really being put into that side of the game and at all levels. Yes, starting from grassroots, but even at the elite space, because ideally, we all want people to be playing our game for as long as we can, and we want them to be pushing and aiming for those pathways in the future. So if we can stem, really good learnings and habits into a child at a young age, then hopefully those are some tools that they carry with them throughout their career, wherever their career takes them. But it would be so much more beneficial if we could install that at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, as opposed to 18, 19,
Yeah,
28, 30. And I'm not saying it's too late, but you're just obviously making the most of the time you do have, and really looking after the players around you. Auckland Rugby League, even just the shift in some of the things they're doing and
Yeah.
some of the way that they now talk about things, because I think that's one of the biggest things is addressing things. It's okay to talk about things. It's okay not to be okay, but actually, making it a space and an environment where people can talk about it, and that there's tools available for those that need it. So, seeing that driven from Auckland Rugby League, seeing it driven at the Warriors with a wellbeing team in place, and, people,
Awesome.
wrapped around the team or teams, if they need it, and even at Kiwi Ferns level. So I think that's one big takeaway, and I'm sure it's happening in all sports and a lot of other areas within our country and across the world, is just having tools available. Because if you have tools available and you have them in place, you would hope that if people need them, that they're there to use.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, you don't know, and if you don't know about it, who's there to talk to.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been a lot of times that people could have just if someone had been there or given them some education or information, they could have reached out to them earlier. So
Yeah.
I just love seeing that in our game now. It's such an important part, and the main thing is that we're looking after ourselves and we're looking after our mates around us, and looking after everyone that's in our game.
Yeah, definitely, and it's really cool to hear that they are trying to help educate those even from a young age, because like you said, I think even like I don't know about you, but when going through mental health wasn't as big back in the day, so there wasn't kind of a lot of emphasis on it, but now obviously it's huge, and having that education will really help a lot of those young ones. They might not see the benefit of it at the moment because they're 5, 6 years old,
Yeah.
but definitely gonna have a huge impact as they go through and coming across like challenges, getting injured, and that probably find those tools will be a lot easier to deal with it. I guess if you haven't been educated in it, you get hit with a season injury. It plays a massive toll on your mind. But if you don't know how to cope with it, it's challenging. So, have you had any major injuries across your journey?
Actually, not injuries from footy, which is touch wood. Just more like injuries growing up, trying different sports, or just being a kid. So nothing too big. Biggest injuries probably just splitting my ear in half.
Oh wow,
Just from some straight like clean contact.
no
Just like
way.
I think on the shorts, just cut it in half. But yeah, fortunate that nothing's kind of ruled me out for like too long of a time, because I know for me personally, like I know injuries, I don't wish them upon anyone, but
Yeah.
they're part of our game. We can't control them, but I know I've seen some really close friends go through some big injuries, and it's
Mm.
been testing times, and they've definitely come back stronger. But going back to that well-being and that like mental toughness and resilience, like those are the biggest things that come into play. Your rehab and everything after that is kind of second, down the order line. So it's back to that mental side, through injuries and things like that.
Yeah, and like after like a game or a test match or even at club level, obviously recovery is another one that they talk a lot about now. The importance of it, and that what does recovery look like to you? Even at a club level, like after you finish a game, the days leading after.
Yeah, so I guess it looks quite different at club level to international level, just with the resources you have available. We're really fortunate in Kiwi Ferns and at Warriors, like you get off the field, you've got a hydrolyte, you've got water, you've got an ice bath waiting for you. The works, you've got two physios at least there. The works, like you're really
Mm.
spoiled in that space. And I guess that's one of the rewards for playing at the highest level. Back at clubland and at grassroots, you kind of have to self-manage. And it can be tricky because, I mean, most club teams, you'll know there'll be kind of half of your girls that are serious and,
Yeah.
that they're kind of striving for more, and they'll think about the recovery, and, the other half of the team might reach for a can or a fried something first, which is cool because, the different players make up what club is all about.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, back at Clubland, like, I mean, I would just try and kind of go back to basics and stretch and get in a pool.
That's it. And just wrapping up, and there, just a couple of last questions. Firstly, what kind of advice would you give? And it might just be recapping, but what kind of advice would you give to someone who's perhaps wanting to play for the Kiwi Ferns one day or play for the Warriors? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would just say, like, give it a go. Like, first of all, put your foot, in the door at a club and like give rugby league a go. Like I remember from my first experience, I just fell in love with it straight away. I hope that would be the case for young girls that are wanting to kind of try rugby league. Yes, I love the physicality and the contact and everything, but man, rugby league, like, it just gives you so much. It gives you friendships. It gives you values, and it teaches you so much. So my one thing would just be give it a go, and as soon as your foot's in the door, you'll realize how many opportunities there are, and you'll quite quickly see, just with the way the game's growing, how many pathways there are in place to like really reach the top or wherever you're aspiring towards. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And lastly, is there a goal or a dream that you haven't yet achieved? Perhaps maybe you're looking forward to doing it this year, but classic Auntie Rona, interrupted everyone's plans. But yeah, is there something that you kind of still yet to tick off?
um Love to play a grand final at a World Cup.
Yeah.
So, obviously kind of work from, the time that didn't go so well, tick that off the list. But I think for me overall, I think just I want to be in this game as long as I can, playing the best footy that I can, making the most of it, the memories, the friendships and everything, because, you can't play footy forever. It's only around for a short time. So I want to just make sure that I make the most of it. And if I get a few wins along the way, then that'll be a bonus.
Sick. Oh, that's so cool. Hey Georgia, thanks so much for your time. I know I've been inspired by listening to your journey, and I know a lot of people will be as well. And that's the whole point of it, to kind of see what the athlete's like behind closed doors. So thanks heaps for your time today.
Thank you.
No worries. Well, guys, that's it for episode 5. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and like and comment. If you've got any questions for Georgia, please put it down below. We'll put her social media accounts down as well, so you can reach out to her. But yeah, until next time, thanks, guys.